Okay, the third issue that keeps cropping up all the time has to do with action, or more often with most men, the failure to take action. I think of it with the catchphrase, don't just stand there, do something. If you want to be rich, if you want to be happy, if you want to be loved, you've got to do something about it, man. Most men are mostly talk and very little action. Look, let me give you an analogy. I'm from the state of Oregon. I'm from Eugene, Oregon. In fact, the home of the University of Oregon. Go Ducks. And a place referred to quite often as Tracktown, USA. So I'm going to use a track and field analogy here to talk a bit about action. Let's pretend that life is a track meet. I'm going to divide all of mankind / men into 3 groups at that track meet of life, and I'm going to call these groups on your mark, get set, and go. Most men are get on your mark men. If they're at the stadium, they may be wearing track clothes, they're wearing their sweats, they're moving around the infield, they're stretching, they're doing all those things that track and field athletes do before they compete. But that's all they ever do. If I'm in the stands watching this meet, I'm going to see these guys milling around the infield, doing their stretching, etc. And 5 hours later, when the meet is over, they're still there, they're still in the infield. That's all they do. Most men are, in fact, on your mark men. The next group, get set, is a much smaller group. Now your get set men go a little further. They're the guys who are actually taking off their sweats, and they have running outfits underneath. They have Nike, remember I'm from Oregon, running shoes on. They move down to the track. They position their hands just so on the track surface. They stretch their legs back. They put their spikes into the blocks. They arch their backs. They look steely-eyed down the track. They look like they're ready to go. But for the get-set men that I'm describing, apparently the gun never goes off because they never actually run the race. The final group are go men. This is an extremely small group. I hope many of you watching this video are in fact go men. I suspect if you're watching this video, you're at least a get set guy. Go men are running, in many cases, before the gun's actually gone off. They are pumping their arms, they're churning around the track, they're focused on the finish line. These guys don't just think about running the race, they don't just talk about running the race, they are running the race. In other words, these are men of action. That is who you want to be. You need to be a go guy. So, as some of these men have suggested with me, this is something that they find quite challenging. I start my book, actually, with a quote from my favorite president, and I suspect perhaps one of yours as well, if you're a history buff as I am, Teddy Roosevelt. It's actually a quote that starts chapter 1 of the book, which happens to be on courage. And let me just read a brief excerpt from it, if you'll just bear with me for a moment. Men who, at the best in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. You don't want to be a cold and timid soul. So if you don't, you've got to dare to act. So, why is it that so many men don't act? Well, I think one of the primary reasons is fear of failure. Fear of what people will say if we do try something, if we do act on one of our dreams or one of our beliefs, and we fall short. What will the world think? What will the world say? The reason so many of us are concerned about this is that so many of us have learned to equate what we do with who we are. This is a big mistake. Here's a personal anecdote. One day some years ago, I was involved in a charity golf tournament. at Winged Foot, one of the great classic golf courses in America in New York. I hit a terrible drive off the first tee and subsequently hacked my way in to the first green. I was terrible. My caddy was a very large, elderly man who, as I began to walk dejectedly from the first green to the second hole tee box, put his massive arm around my shoulder, steered me away from the group I was playing with, and whispered in my ear, "Son, please tell me you play some other sport." Those words hit me like a sledgehammer. I felt even worse after that, and if possible, played even worse during the subsequent 17 rounds, and for months thereafter was in a funk, all because, I know this sounds stupid, but it's true, and I'll bet some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I allowed this guy's words to underscore the fact that I was actually my game of golf. It took my brilliant wife to snap me out of it by simply pointing out the fact that I'm not my game of golf. I'm me, Randy Morse. I do many things. I golf, I ski, I climb, I play basketball, I paint, I write music, I perform, I write books, I help people publish, I help raise 3 kids. I am helping make life difficult for the parents of my 2 granddaughters because I know best how to raise them as well. There are all sorts of things I do. In part, all those things, I suppose, describe who I am, but there is much more to me, Randy Morse, than those things I do. So get out of the habit of allowing what you do, your job, your station in life, to define who you are, because if you do, it's going to greatly reduce the likelihood that when the opportunity arises, when your blood is up, that you'll take that step, that you'll take those actions necessary to move towards becoming a happier, more successful, more content man. So, as they say back in Tracktown, USA, just do it.